Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with a Total War Warhammer video. Recently we started a series regarding legendary lords that are in dire need of a rework, and I can't go over all the Total War Warhammer ones without eventually covering Belegar Ironhammer. The King Without a Hold was introduced in Total War Warhammer 1 through the King and the Warlord DLC, and unfortunately he's been left in the dark for a long time now. Even while the dwarves received a minor rework, nothing too special, it very much looks like Belegar and his faction has been forgotten about, as they never really received too much of an update. Before anything, let's talk about how Belegar Ironhammer's faction currently works. Belegar gets access to 4 unique Ancestor Spirits. These are various different types of heroes which are only available to him. They'll serve the purpose of any other generic hero, but each of them are specialized for specific roles, and will fill out the roles already available through dwarf heroes. The difference is that you'll already have access to 4 different heroes, all of which are immortal, ethereal, and cause negatives to enemy leadership. Next, the Clan Angren faction benefits from leadership plus 10 when laying siege. And finally, upkeep plus 50% for all units, lords, and heroes until Karak 8 Peaks is recaptured by your faction. Also, when you capture Karak 8 Peaks, you will gain access to a unique building, which is only available to Clan Angren. The mechanics that were implemented for Clan Angren and Belegar Ironhammer for a time worked perfectly fine. In truth, it works very well for Warhammer 1 standards, but not for Warhammer 2, where every other race and faction seems to be getting updated quite heavily, and Belegar is being forgotten about in all honesty, which is a bit sad considering that he is a very popular character. So with that being said, how could Creative Assembly improve upon Belegar Ironhammer and elevate his faction to be more on par with those races and factions in Total War Warhammer 2? Firstly, an update of skill trees for him and for his ghostly friends. Well, ancestors, but you know what I mean. They're currently left in the dark and need to be brought up to Warhammer 2 standards. The heroes I really don't care too much about, they're already powerful as they are, but Belegar needs an update, maybe some skills which could benefit him and his army that will grant various bonuses when fighting against Skaven and goblins. It'd be interesting if this was goblin specific. Yeah, it's not going to be that well used, but then again you're fighting against Skarsnik, a gobbo leader, so it makes sense for you to have bonuses against goblins specifically. Next would be doing away with the minus 50% upkeep for Belegar's forces until he controls Karak 8 Peaks. It's extremely punishing no matter what difficulty you play on, and it forces you to go a specific way. It should be more in line with Karak 8 Peaks for Queek, just a small negative to public order, nothing to force the player to go that way. Instead, there should be an incentive to go and retake the hold, but in the form of benefits, not so much negatives. The benefits already provided by the landmarks I believe are okay enough. Maybe they could receive a few bonuses, but that's pretty much it. Moving on, after you've taken the former hold, if you've decided to do so, there should be a mechanic where you'll have to defend the hold for a certain number of turns, where you should be actively fighting against invading forces, obviously from both Queek Headtaker and Skarsnik. Every few turns or so, they should spawn armies, and each time a new army spawns on their behalf, they should get more and more powerful. The player should feel like Karak 8 Peaks is constantly under threat of aggression. However, the mechanic should end eventually. Say for example, after say 50 turns or so, then a event battle will spawn. It would be interesting if here you could be thrown into a three-way battle, yourself playing as Belegar versus an army led by Queek Headtaker and an army led by Skarsnik. The strength of these armies would obviously be dependent on what difficulty you're on, and it's not like you're going to be fighting 2 enemies at the exact same time. Instead, it would be a free-for-all. As we are aware that Creative Assembly can indeed make these maps, we do have these for multiplayer, so why not for campaign, at least for special events. Imagine a huge battle where an army of goblins, Skaven and dwarfs would fight in a huge plaza-based map, very much styled as if all three armies are fighting in the center of Karak 8 Peaks. Should you win, then you'll retain control of Karak 8 Peaks and then maybe have access to a special landmark building. And of course, with that, there would be no more enemy army incursions. However, should you lose the battle, say for example Queek 1 out of the 3, then Karak 8 Peaks would fall under Clan Moors, and you would have to retry this event once again by first taking over the city and surviving the incursions again. I believe something like this would provide for a rather interesting campaign mechanic. And finally, a mechanic which I like to call the king without a hold. So, as we are aware, Belegar Ironhammer's ancestral home of Karak 8 Peaks has been lost for quite some time now, where Belegar has been travelling from hold to hold, beseeching from the other dwarf kings to lend him forces, money, supplies, or anything which will allow him to journey on to reclaim his ancestral home. So I would see his campaign implemented in a following way. Belegar, and just Belegar himself, should have the Horde function, where he'd be able to recruit units and build up buildings in a standard way that a normal Horde faction would function. However, only he and he alone through this faction would be considered a Horde, the rest of the dwarfs would act as normal. This is to represent that he is constantly travelling, asking for help from his fellow kings. Now, how this would work is anytime that Belegar himself walks through allied dwarf territory, there could be a pop-up event, where you would be able to either have some supplies gifted to you, or maybe some special reinforcement units could become available, in a very similar way to how Marcus Wolfheart gets his reinforcement units. Obviously, this would be on some sort of cooldown, maybe around 10 turns or so it would give you incentive to move around and check up on your allies. And obviously, this would also make you want to initiate diplomacy with other dwarf factions. Now, you could build up an empire as normal, but say that you've been launching an attack on various greenskin tribes. These tribes have control of former dwarf holds. What you could do is, instead of occupying it, you could then revive the dwarf faction that might have been destroyed, just as you can do with the Empire when taking control of territories which might not belong to your specific elector. This is so you can guarantee to be able to use the king without a hold mechanic and then travel through it to be able to get some free units or some basic supplies. I think something like this, or in general all the mechanics listed, could be rather interesting, but in truth, really anything could help Belegar. In my honest opinion, he is probably the least enjoyable lord that I've played through. There's just nothing there, and with the punishing mechanics and so on, it just feels like it's more of an uphill struggle than anything else. There's no real fun factor, and it makes me want to avoid the character. So much so that I think the last time I played as Belegar was, well, when the dwarf rework came, and I was hoping that Belegar had been touched upon, considering that he's such an important character in lore, but these were my ideas as to how Belegar Ironhammer and his faction of Clan Angrand could be made more fun. What do you guys think, and do you guys have any ideas of your own? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games, where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.